Hi, it's Dave here, and I'm with my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
And you're listening to the Cinemile, the show where we walk home from the movies. Today, it's an emergency cinema. Because, well, I was planning on seeing this movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, anyway, because I love Spider-Man. But Cathy wasn't fussed. But then, I think it's just getting amazing reviews, and that sort of swayed you a bit, didn't it?
Well, everyone's saying, because we do a Best Review of the Year podcast in December every year, and everyone's suddenly saying this is one of the best movies of the year, to which if one or two people said it, I would be highly sceptical.
So now you're interested suddenly.
But lots of people are saying it, like a lot of film reviewers who I would trust. Now, I haven't read any reviews, so I don't know what it's about. I've just kind of seen the headlines. So we're doing something that we have done before in this podcast, but it's slightly ridiculous because we don't have a babysitter. So I'm going to go and see it now, 10 a.m. And then we're going to hand over the baby, and then Dave's going to go and see it at...
To each other, not
half
to the
12.
cinema.
To each other. And then we will reconvene after Dave's viewing and review the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So me and Oscar are going to go to the park while you watch Spider-Man by yourself.
So weird.
You loser.
And I don't care for Spider-Man at all.
Yeah,
and
you're going to feel so weird.
It's going to be full of kids. I mean, I'm going at 10 a.m. on a Saturday, right?
Well, I don't know. That would be interesting. I'm not sure who this movie is for. I guess it is for kids.
Yeah, but parents... people will just think it's for kids either way. It's at 10 a.m. on a Saturday and it's got Spider-Man in
But
the
it's an interesting one because it's going up against Wreck-It Ralph as well. But I guess that's been out for a week or two. I wonder how it will actually perform.
I don't even know what it is. Is it animated?
Okay, yeah, it's an animated Spider-Man movie with Phil Lord from Lord & Miller fame, who did the Lego Movie and 21 Jump Street, and I'm huge fans of them. And I think he's co-written this.
But without Miller?
I think so, from what was on the IMDb.
Interesting.
But it's an animated Spider-Man movie that deals with parallel universes and multiple Spider-Men. So It's got half of Lord and Miller, Spider-Man, and parallel universes. Three of my favourite things.
Okay, I'm into parallel universes.
These are a few of my favourite things.
I'm into parallel universes, so I don't mind Lord and Miller. Have no thoughts on Spider-Man, so
I just think
1.5 out of 3.
I just think I've been avoiding the trailers for this because I've been excited, and just the concept of an animated Spider-Man with parallel universes, I'm sold.
Well, that's not that. I mean, we've seen lots of animated Spider-Man before.
Not on the big screen, and this is. I just think this sounds a bit ballsy and odd.
Oh wow, it sounds so ballsy to release a Spider-Man movie in a year that Avengers is the biggest taken box office of the year. It's in fact the entire opposite of ballsy.
It's ballsy.
Completely cashing in on the Marvel brand.
No, hang on. Well, obviously, they started from a point of we have Spider-Man, what will we do? But it's relatively risky from a studio that...
It's not risky, Dave. It's not risky to release a Spider-Man movie.
Listen to me. It's from a studio that only a few years ago was putting out the Andrew Garfield things and rebooting and doing an origin story all over again, which is the complete antithesis of risky. So I'm saying it's relatively risky to put in... Hang on, to put in Peter Parker's not the star. It's got Spider-Man in the title. It's animated and it sounds a bit sort of weird.
But nobody cares about Peter Parker. People care about Spider-Man. So not having Peter Parker as the star doesn't actually matter. Like, kids want to see Spider-Man flying around from building to building. Kids aren't invested in Peter Parker.
Why don't you go watch this movie and then we'll talk?
Now, look, I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but I just think it's absolutely not ballsy. It's entirely appropriate cash in a year when Marvel is the biggest thing in cinema.
Fine.
But what I'm looking forward to is an hour and a half by myself in the cinema drinking coffee.
Hang on. I'm going to take the sort of cynical edge of the intro to this podcast because I feel like a little kid right now. I'm really looking forward to this. Spider-Man's my favourite superhero. Cathy alluded to the fact that I have had a Spider-Man shelf in our house, but a lot of people were messaging me about can I get a picture of my Spider-Man shelf, which you mentioned.
Yeah, that was in our old flat.
It doesn't exist anymore, guys. I'm so sorry.
We have a toddler. We can't have a low shelf with Spider-Man paraphernalia. It would not be appropriate.
I've got loads of Spider-Man gear, and I'm just like I'm just really excited.
Okay, well, enjoy the park while I go and drink coffee in the cinema. Bye.
Bye.
My name is Miles Morales. I'm the one and only Spider-Man. At least that's what I thought.
You ever hear of the Super Collider? You're gonna love this.
Dimension opening now.
You're like me. That's impossible.
All right, kid, listen up. This fry is your universe. It's soggy, it's weird, it's gross. And this delicious normal fry is my universe. So you want to learn to be Spider-Man?
Can you teach me?
Yes, I can. Time to swing. Good, you're doing it. Double tap to release and whip it out again.
Okay.
Whip.
And release.
You're a natural. Whip.
All right, we're back. About 6 hours has passed since you last heard from us. And
6 hours have passed.
2 separate cinema screenings of Spider-Man, a baby handoff, several walks in the park.
Yes.
A lot has happened.
A lot has happened, and yet really nothing has happened. Except that we both saw a movie, and Dave, I don't know how you felt about the movie, because we've literally just met and turned the podcast thing straight on.
Yeah.
That's how we roll.
You tell me what you thought.
Okay. So I thought it was brilliant. I really, really loved it. I think it's definitely the best superhero movie I've ever seen. And it is
Superhero
by
movie.
far... What did I say? said
Is that what
superhero.
you meant
Yeah,
to say? I'm
superhero.
just checking, yeah.
And it's way better than any of the Marvel movies. The current batch, of which there's 20 now. Way better than any of them. So for me it was stylish. I don't know much about animation, but I thought the animation was really cool looking. I loved everything about the animation. A couple of times at the start I thought, wait, is this supposed to be in 3D? And do I not have
I had
the glasses?
the same feeling.
Really? And I was looking around. Side note, it wasn't busy at all.
I
There
was going to
very few
ask
people.
someone behind me. I was looking for other 3D
I was looking
glasses.
too. But side note, there wasn't that many people there, and it was mainly adults. A couple of kids.
No,
who
it's
seemed to
it's
enjoy
a
it.
deliberate thing. Things in the background are slightly out of focus. It's
I
really
realised that
interesting
after a
style.
while. It was really cool. And there were some really cool ways they animated different things, which we'll speak about in Spoiler Street. I thought it was really clever, which I don't usually think about these sorts of movies. I really enjoyed. There was a lot of payoff, and there was a lot of emotional depth to it. I really enjoyed how they handled the introduction to Spider-Man, yada yada yada, origin story, how quickly they got past all that stuff. And honestly, I found it really funny. I laughed out loud a lot, which is unusual when you're on your own in the cinema, particularly because I wasn't sitting near anyone, and it was a very quiet screening.
I was so conscious of how loudly I was laughing.
Same. Because you're on your own.
There were 6 other people in my screening.
There
and
was
it
about 6 in mine too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting how it will perform. But anyway, so funny. I properly laughed out loud loads of times, at least 6 times. And then emotional. I was really invested in it, and I cried a couple of times. And then the big thing for me was, as much as I don't tend to love these sorts of movies, I've seen a lot of them, being married to you, and where they always lose me unanimously.
The fight
at
scenes.
the end, the big action sequence, which is to be expected at the end of any of these movies, always completely loses me through I don't know what, the choreography, the visuals. I just lose it. I get bored, and I'm completely uninterested.
Or you're not invested.
None of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if in part a lot of that is because they're CGI, whereas this movie was animated. I don't know, but this movie I was completely gripped in the final sequence. And I know it was A, because I cared about all the characters and I really cared about the stakes. B, it just looked so beautiful and it was so exciting what was happening. And C, I just don't know, I was completely riveted and actually on the edge of my seat. And I wondered, is this how people feel in other superhero movies, where I never do? And honestly, for most Avengers-esque Marvel movies or X-Men movies or anything, I can completely tune out for the last 20 minutes and miss nothing.
Yeah.
But this movie, each character had an actual plot point in the end scene. Each character had a moment. I was following our main character throughout, and I just love what they did with the different iterations of Spider-Man. So that's all I'll say before Spoiler Street. But the only thing I wish is that I had gone with you, because I thought honestly, Dave would just be so happy right now if he was here with me, and I would have enjoyed being there with you and enjoying
I know.
it.
I wish you'd been with me as well.
Well,
And I'm so happy to hear you say this, because I felt exactly the same way.
I mean, I knew you would.
Oh, this movie.
If you hadn't liked this movie, I would have been like, who are you and what have you done with my husband?
This movie is a gift. It's an absolute treasure. I was absolutely bowled over by this. I agree with everything you said. This is just a stunning and singular achievement. There's no superhero movie like this. There's no Spider-Man movie like this. This is just such confident storytelling, so stylish. The animation style out of the gates is individual and interesting. It is like watching a moving comic book, but they blended sort of 3D and 2D textures so well, and the way they integrate sort of comic text boxes, it's not jarring. It's very subtly done.
And every time it happened, I went, "Ooh, that's cool."
Yeah,
I never thought, "Oh, there's another
one."
one.
So, it just felt fresh and young and energetic, much like its protagonist Miles Morales.
Yes, I loved Miles. God, I didn't even say that.
He's a brilliant character. Lovely voice acting from an actor who I hadn't heard of, and is called Shamik Moore.
I looked out for him in the credits, but because I didn't know who it was, I couldn't guess.
Just lovely. I mean, from the second Miles Morales comes on screen, I fell in love with him.
Yeah, he's so good.
And this isn't a spoiler, but it's just such a simple moment. It's just him in his bedroom with headphones on, kind of singing badly to something.
Yeah.
And I'm instantly endeared.
Yeah.
And it the connection with him and his family only grows from there. And that's just one of the Spider-Men we get. They established. Okay, I think we're just gonna have to go to Spoiler Street very soon.
Generally and just speaking, say we both recommend it, right?
My God, I cannot believe that there were only 6 people in each of our screenings. 12 people saw this in the last 6 hours.
Mine was 6 adults, but a couple of kids. There was a couple of kids in mine.
Only 1 kid and 5. A lot of people on their own at my one.
Same.
So I feel like I'm a bit worried that this won't find an audience. And we were talking about this in the intro. I think people are possibly very weary of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's a little overexposed.
I mean, I could care, honestly, less for Spider-Man ever. I wouldn't have cared if I'd ever seen a Spider-Man movie again. And yet I loved this movie.
You said in the beginning you wouldn't have gone to this if it hadn't got such positive responses, right?
No. When I first heard there was a new Spider-Man movie, all I had done was roll my eyes and say, "You can go without me."
Which is the kind of thing that I think I don't think everyone pays attention to critical response. And I don't think critical response is always enough to get people in the doors.
Well,
I think word of mouth would help.
But also when movies like Avengers, I know I keep referencing that one, movies like that get really rapturous reviews as well. So you kind of think, yeah, but they're all getting good reviews, really. The difference is that these are getting people saying, no, this is in my top movies of the year.
This is
but you may not drill down that deep to the reviews, and you might just say, oh yeah, another superhero movie that people are recommending, whatever.
Right, I'm going to say right now, if you're listening to this and you haven't seen this movie, please go to a cinema and support it and help it make money, because
Dave, it's going to make money.
No,
but
I want this to make the most money ever, so that people will look at what you can do when you allow people to be creative, because this felt like a whole load of very creative and funny and individual minds working together with the art department in this movie deserves awards across the board. It's just so cool and confident and stylish and fun and emotional and enjoyable. I loved it so much.
It's probably what I know. Only one of Lord and Miller did this one. I can't remember.
No,
which one.
So
it's probably what they wanted to do with
I looked it
Solo.
up. I looked it up while we were away from each other. Lord and Miller sort of spearheaded this project. They both produced it, but Phil Lord is the only credited writer with another writer, I think Joseph Rothman.
He wrote the story, but he co-wrote the script. But I was going to say, I think that what they managed to do here in this level of creativity is probably what they originally angled for with the Solo movie.
Yes, and
that just never happened, because live action is so different from animation in that sense.
No, but I just wish Disney had the confidence to say, and clearly they didn't, because there was a huge clash famously on the production of that movie, but if they just said, I guess they can't with Star Wars, but just say we trust you, do your own thing, and you're going to make a good product, because they make amazing movies.
But ultimately Disney's too corporate now. Disney wanted to do that. Obviously someone wanted that to happen, and what they ended up was a very middle of the road movie that we both quite enjoyed, but we'll never probably see again.
But I tell you right now that what came out and was fine, if you just let Lord and Miller to work on that thing without any interference, we would have got an amazing product. Because everything they've done from the very beginning, and from my first experience with them, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 1 and 2 are outstanding. The 20 Jump Street sequel and its original, the TV
Lego
show Last
Batman.
Man on Earth, Lego movie.
Last Man on Earth really dwindled. Anyway, we're dwindling. We need to get back to this movie, right? We need to get to Spoiler Street.
They are some of the best creative voices in working in movies today, and everything they do feels like so fresh. Oh my god, I'm just so excited. I came out of this and wanted to see this movie again.
Same.
Immediately.
I actually thought that,
Like-
and my little nephew who's 6 loves Marvel, right? And I thought, I was about to text my sister and say bring him to see it, and then I thought, no, I don't think it's right for a boy that age
Not
or
a
a girl that age.
6-year-old. I think a
it needs-
12-year-old or 10 is like
Yeah.
the perfect. You
It's
need
a little bit too violent. Like I wouldn't recommend it for a young kid. There was a couple of young kids in my audience, but I just thought it was maybe not suitable for them. And I would say, save it for older kids, or wait a couple of years. And
Well,
show
this
it
is potentially
DVD.
a little confused. It's like there's a lot of plot in this.
There's a lot of
But it
plot.
doesn't
Visually,
feel-
it's quite unusual, and actually for a kid, I don't know if that makes it harder for them to take it in. But there is just some quite, there is violence
Yeah.
and sadness. So I would recommend it, maybe if your kid's over 10. And finally, one more thing before we get to Spoiler Street. We keep saying that, but what I really, really liked about this movie is that there's multiple, as we said, there's multiple Spider-Men or women or whatever, Spider people. And in particular, what this movie did is that it just showed, and I know this has been done in the comics, but I've not seen it done on screen before.
Anyone can wear the mask.
Spider-Man doesn't have to be white, and he doesn't have to be a man. There can be a Spider-Woman, there can be an Asian Spider-Woman, there can be a black Spider-Man. And that was amazing because, all these Marvel heroes really, bar the only one I can think of is Black Panther, they are all white and predominantly men, so I just love that as well. If you're thinking of taking a kid to it, it's really nice that kids aren't just seeing the same image all the time of what a hero should look like.
All right, let's move on to Spoiler
Yeah.
Street now for this movie. Okay, I just...
Spoiler Street is a lovely rainy park.
I don't know where to start. I've got so much I want to say. I mean...
Well, I start because you'll have more to say than me.
Go on then.
So I can go and then you can jump in. Okay, the intro, which I kind of mentioned in our brief review there, I just love the way it was like, yeah, you know the story, I'm Peter Parker, this happened to me, this happened, blah, 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 blah. And then
But did you spot all there was so many great references to the movies in particular in there?
yeah, I got it.
He
'cause
does he does the Tobey Maguire dance from Spider-Man 3 that's been mocked ever since, and he said, all right, we won't dwell on that.
Oh, I didn't get that. I didn't get it. I mean, the thing is, I've seen most of the Spider-Man movies, and I've seen most Spider-Man movies. I've seen the cartoon, blah blah blah. None of it's ever really stuck with me. But I mean, I know the story
You
as well
know
as
it.
anyone.
Everyone
Everyone knows it, right?
But it's been, not only have we seen it repeated multiple times on the big screen and small screen, but it's been in it's been in pop culture and comic books pages since the 60s. Like
Yeah.
this is 3 times as old as us.
Yeah, it's like
No, that's
nobody
wrong.
needs.
I don't know my own age.
You don't know your own age. It's
I
old.
can't do maths.
It's old, right? But yeah, again, I love that. I just really loved it. And just a kind of couple of things that I want to talk through.
Did you notice that was Chris Pine?
No, I didn't.
I spotted his voice immediately.
I couldn't spot the voice.
The two Peter Parkers were voiced by different people.
I
which
thought
I
they
thought was
might have been. I
interesting.
thought they were different.
Yeah, I guess
Okay,
because they were quite different in age.
So what
which
I want
liked.
to, just briefly, as we discussed already, I love the introduction of Miles.
Miles, yeah.
Miles, his family, his school setting. I just thought it all just spoke to his character. We got a very quick sense of him. He's been made to move school, and he's gotten from a place where he's really popular to where he's quite insecure. He's got an uncle who he idolises, which obviously a trope of Spider-Man. And then it just got better and better as the big baddie came, who I found very visually intimidating actually, and he was one of the reasons I thought it might
I
be a
love
bit
the style of
scary
him.
for
He
my-
almost didn't look human.
He was like 100 times the size of everyone else on screen, but that was cool. But again, I thought that might be a bit scary for a young kid. But I just love that once we got to the point where we met the new Spider-Men or women, how it started splitting off, and when we heard the opening for the old Peter Parker, that's when I just went, oh my god, I love this movie. So he's Peter Parker, but he's like,
Oh, when you
20
mean when you
years
got
older.
the intro again?
When we got the intro
what-
again,
and what- and
what
what's
they
the
did
line?
with the intros was just the
What's
best.
the line they kept using again? It was something like, oh, all right, let's just start from the beginning.
Yeah, real quick, something like that.
Real quick.
And when we meet this older, it's the same Peter Parker, but he's like jaded
Oh,
And
that sequence
he's
was
divorced
so
from
funny
Mary
as well.
Jane, and he's got a bit of a belly, and he sits around eating pizza.
But I love the way he kept what he was describing wasn't what we were seeing. So
It
he
was
was like,
so
you know, I was
clever.
mostly just working on myself, and he's eating pizza.
And he's watching telly.
And
That's when I just knew how much I loved this movie. And also, because our protagonist, Miles, was not a Peter Parker, I wasn't then expecting them all to be iterations of Peter Parker, which they are. So that was unexpected to me. And I love the way eventually we've got like a black and white like film noir detective, which I think was Nicolas Cage.
It was Nicolas Cage. These
then
are all
we've
real
got-
comics as well, you know.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
And then we've got Spider-Woman, who I loved. I thought I want to see her in a movie. She's
Hayley
so
Steinfeld.
cool. Gwen. Yes. And then my favourite, I mean, come on, the fact that there was an animated pig, which was like basically like a Bugs Bunny.
Okay.
And then there was the anime
the fact-
girl, there was a robot.
Not just the fact that they did that, but they made it work somehow. Like
Each
it
one.
didn't feel jarring, like the fact that you've got an animated pig in
It
there.
was so funny. Oh my god, I was just laughing
Peter
out loud.
Porker.
Peter Porker. And then there was kind of the montage with all the new ones, and then they're all
I loved how-
simultaneously trying to train him, which they can't do.
Sorry, I loved how when they showed because we got introduced to those three, Spider-Man Noir, and the
Spider
Japanese
Girl.
one, and the Peter Porker, all at the same time. So we got theirs, just like a split screen, three at the same time. There were so many good gags.
And then
in here
old Peter
where they're
Parker was like, enough.
"How did we get here? It's a long story." And then they just arrived, and it's like, okay,
I
it's
just
not that
loved
long.
it. And then just going back a little bit, sorry, because I got ahead of myself. There's a scene where, the older Spider-Man, the older Peter Parker is like glitching in and out because of the parallel universes. And our protagonist, Miles, ends up kind of grabbing him and trying to swing from roof to roof with spiderweb. And somebody says,
Oh, sorry. Oh,
there's a child dressed like Spider-Man
Yeah.
dragging a homeless corpse. And I just thought
I
that was
laughed out loud
out
so much.
loud. Oh my god, I just loved it. Honestly, I'm a little bit all over the place because I saw it a couple of hours ago and I didn't really make notes and I can't remember.
How fun was that sequence?
It was so
How fun
fun.
was it, Miles, like trying to come to terms with his powers and sticking to Gwen's hair?
It was so
was
fun,
great.
yeah.
It just him like riding, him being stuck to an old Peter Parker who's not wearing any pants,
Yeah.
who's attached to a train. It's like
It's just
Just
brilliant.
the ideas are just falling off the screen here.
And to have so
I
many
love-
fresh Spidey ideas in a world, as we said, that's been done to death, it was like quite amazing that they could, come up with those new ideas and execute them in a way that was like genuinely thrilling. And just visually, again, the whole thing was so stunning. But I just loved the old Peter Parker and I loved their relationship, and I think their relationship was at the core, those two.
I mean, it's a very it's a classic trope, the mentor mentee thing.
He even mentioned, the older Peter Parker said, like, oh my god, I'm your teacher, you're like good, but you're not as good as me. But there
He
was
was
a really,
so funny,
I
the
couldn't-
older Peter
like,
Parker.
As we were going through the end sequence and each character was getting their own bit, which I love, Peter Parker actually said, the old Peter Parker says, I love you, I'm so proud of you. And that's really emotive
Yeah,
language
and
that
then he
you
said-
don't hear in these kind of movies
So
very
maybe
often.
I do want kids.
I know, and
Yeah.
I just thought it was so lovely, and he was so down on himself, and their relationship for both of them was really beautiful. There was even depth to the baddie in that he'd lost his wife and son.
How-
Like no one felt two-dimensional.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But how fun was it, even at the very initial part of Miles and Peter teaming up, and then he sneaks into the vent behind him, and they're both looking down, and then she reveals herself as Doc Ock.
Oh,
which
that was
great.
amazing. Because
So
we think
good.
she's this like downtrodden scientist
Yeah.
who's being bullied.
What
and
a
then
great
she's
twist.
a kick ass. Yeah, I
But
loved
how
her.
funny! I just loved. There were so many funny little touches to that scene alone.
Like
where-
when he
where,
took
like,
the computer and the monitor, and Peter
Yeah,
Parker
yeah,
says,
you don't
"You
need
don't
the
need the
monitor."
monitor." That was
and
so
then,
funny.
but he turns on the computer, and it's like it's in those things. It's always just like, yeah, put the USB drive in and take the thing. And of course, her desktop was a complete mess.
Yeah,
like anyone's
it
would
looked
be.
like my desktop,
So
actually.
he just took the computer. But that was just so much fun. The way he was invisible. And learning all that, and just like,
I love that he was invisible. I've never seen that with Spider-Man. Is that in? I guess that's in some comic.
look, I'll be honest. I love Spider-Man. I don't read all the comics. I
mean, you
haven't read
couldn't
all
have.
the comics behind this.
But did
I'm
you? I
not
loved how
that
they
much of a super
animated.
fan.
I loved how they animated the invisibility so that we could see him, but the characters within
Yeah.
couldn't, which I thought was quite clear.
It was excellent.
And then the other thing that I really enjoyed was that they, again, as we said, did the uncle thing, but they did it really differently. And honest to God, I was shocked when the uncle was the baddie. I didn't see that coming.
No, neither did I. I
Yeah.
mean, to be honest, when he stepped into the apartment...
Oh, well then, obviously. But right before that, I hadn't at all anticipated it.
Oh, maybe it is him.
And I really liked their relationship, and I loved his relationship. It was a bit disappointing in that the relationship with his mum was nothing. It was very two-dimensional.
No, but
him and his dad
she brought a little bit of empathy. She had that lovely line, our family doesn't run. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
she didn't get a lot of time.
She just provided a line so that towards the end, when he was coming into his powers, we could hear that line being, we don't run away from things in this family.
But
the dad and the uncle were the core relationship.
Absolutely. But how excellent that they made us believe in his relationship with his uncle with only 2 scenes, really. If you think of it, we only met the uncle before that reveal one time, which was when they went to...
It was quite an extended... I wouldn't call that a scene.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, that's pretty economical storytelling. But they did it... Do you know how they did it so well was... The dialogue felt very casual and realistic, didn't it? Nothing felt
idolized
written.
him, that was obvious. But also the dad had already referenced him. Now, there's one thing I didn't like at all with the uncle scene. I really didn't like, and I was disappointed. I know what they were trying to do, and the uncle giving him romantic advice, but for the uncle to say, oh, you put your hand on a girl's shoulder, I thought, oh, that's a funny message to give a young boy about, basically grabbing someone on the shoulder when you're into them. I thought it was a bit of a strange message, and I know it came in later quite well with the baddie, and that was good. But I just thought...
But it was also a joke. Ah, come on, that's a bit much
I
now.
don't know, I just thought, well...
Putting your hand on somebody's shoulder.
Well, uninvited, you actually shouldn't do that. Grab someone by the shoulder. I'm not overreacting, I'm just saying I didn't like it. And they could have used different advice from the uncle. The different advice could have been, you give her flowers or whatever. It didn't have to involve, grabbing her by the shoulder, so I didn't like that. But other than that, I completely bought that he idolised the uncle. He loved the uncle. The uncle was the only one letting him express his creativity, which was a big problem he had with his own family. So of course then that felt like the uncle was his only outlet. And I loved the moment with him and the uncle on the rooftop, and when the uncle pulls the mask off, the uncle, you actually feel like he's a bit torn, and then he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. And that was a lovely moment, and
but then his death scene in the alley was so sad.
Yeah, it was really poignant.
But his lovely, the dialogue was so excellent throughout.
Yeah.
You're the best one of us, Miles.
Yeah, it was lovely.
I
love how they all took the piss out of him. With great power comes great responsibility. How that?
Yeah, we've heard that.
Yeah.
He just kept saying, "Don't say it.
Don't say it.
Don't say it."
Yeah. So honestly, we're just
okay. I actually wrote down all the times I cried, because I cried so much in this movie, which I wasn't expecting. I thought it would be more of but I also laughed. Peter Parker's funeral was lovely. Mary Jane's speech.
You cried at that?
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. And just the fact that they killed him, it was so sad. And I felt that through Miles's eyes. When he came home, after it had happened, and he comes home to his mom and dad, and he's kind of scared and he doesn't know what to do. I thought it was a lovely family scene that got me.
Yeah, because that was supposed to be his mentor, and now he's just gone and he doesn't know what to do.
And when his uncle died, when his father did that speech through the door,
yeah, I cried at that bit.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
And lastly, I thought really touching single tribute to Stan Lee at the very end. Did you stay for the end of the credits?
No, but I liked the Stan Lee cameo in the middle
that was
of it.
nice.
And I did wonder if that's going to be his last ever cameo in a movie.
No,
it would be a bit inappropriate after he's died to do it.
No, I think he's shot a couple already. So he's going to be in Avengers 4 Endgame.
Right.
I believe.
I liked that they animated him in this. I thought that was cool.
But no, they just had they put up a quote from him. Oh, and I've forgotten what the quote is, but it was something about Spiderman and how he's brings out the best in all of us or something. But it was just such a touching tribute.
I was more crying at the end as each spider person kind of did their goodbye and went back to their old void, and then in the end we got a little montage when he said, I think about my friends, and we saw them each back in their own world, and we saw Peter Parker show up with the flowers to Mary Jane. I just was crying at that bit, and that worked, pulling from the old ones. We do root for Peter and Mary Jane because we've seen lots of iterations of them. So to me, that actually helped add a little bit to this, that I had some sense of their relationship.
That scene when they're dressed as waiters and she's asking for bread rolls and he's saying, I'm so sorry, I've let you down. I should have brought you the bread.
Oh yeah, that was really funny.
It was so perfectly done.
Yeah. I think we cried at different parts, but we both cried. And there was just some fun touches. Like, for example, the black and white, like film noir guy, the way he had the Rubik's Cube and he had never seen
He
colour
was like,
before.
is this purple?
And the little pig, just all the stuff with him just made me laugh. And then at one point he said a line, like a Bugs Bunny line.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks. And someone said, are you allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Probably the least...
When he gives him the hammer and he says, here, I want
Fit
you to
in your
have
pocket.
this. It'll fit in your pocket.
The least drawn of all the spider people was the anime girl and her like robot dad.
Yeah, she didn't get a lot of time,
No.
but she was cool. And
She was cool. I would have liked to see more of her.
just to see that sort of manga style meshed in here as well was just cool. I mean, I'm
It
a
was
big
really
fan of
cool.
animation in general, and this movie was just gorgeous. I just and every single scene felt kind of different and had something new to it.
I kept going, actually, wow.
I want to go watch it again.
What I
right
loved is,
now.
and I'm sure this might be in the comics, but again, I've never read one, but I loved how they visualised anytime one of their spidey senses tinged.
Yeah.
Because then I realised I've never seen a spidey sense, but I've heard, it's a language that's just in our vocabulary now. We'll say, ooh, someone's spidey sense. Like, we get that from the comics, and how each one of them would like tingle when they met the other one, and they would instantly know.
It was great.
And the first moment we realised that the older Peter Parker was there and he tingled, I just thought, oh, that gave me a tingle. I loved it.
And how good was Aunt May?
Yeah, I loved
well.
her, and
Oh.
I loved the shed out the back that
the-
was like really high tech, and the older Peter Parker was like scoffing. He was
That
so
was
jealous.
fun. And I loved the older Peter's reaction to seeing Aunt May when his Aunt May had died.
Yeah.
It was like, they crammed so much
So
good
much
stuff in here.
Now, it's 2 hours, which is quite long for a cartoon like
Yeah,
this.
but it nipped
really
by. I
warranted
could have
it.
watched another
Yeah.
2 hours
I
of it.
could have watched more, and I just love that. They're all so noble that they all offered to be the one to die, and I just thought that spoke to their character,
Yeah.
which I really liked.
And how good was the soundtrack?
Oh my god!
the
So that's
music is
one other scene
brilliant.
I wanted to talk about.
The bit where he finally puts on his suit,
Yes,
and
and
then
he's-
starts going through the city, and that track.
That
What?
track.
I've got to look that up.
I don't know what
is
the track was, but the music was saying like "What's up, danger," and it was the only time where I've watched the Spider-Man movie where I really felt like, yes, I'm so happy for him, because it was like towards the end of the movie, which I don't think it normally is. Isn't it normally like quite early on, Peter Parker, oh woohoo, I found my powers, and he's swinging around the place, or you don't feel like it's earned, maybe because we've always seen Peter Parker, so it's like, oh, whatever, it's Peter Parker.
It's genuinely a little early on, but also I think a bit more time passes for him to gain ability, which is probably my only criticism of this movie, and it's so minor. But I felt like he kind of just had a huge transformation after his, in quotes, leap of faith.
Yeah, but that's there. We're saying you only need a leap of faith. You've already got the power. So
Yeah, I
actually,
guess.
and then I just loved how that tied in at the end when the guy said, what if I can't get things to work with Mary Jane?
Oh,
and then he
that's
says,
so
take
good.
a leap of faith, and that's their goodbye, and it's so beautiful.
But hang on, and they'd done, and it was the exact reverse of what they'd done earlier, where he swept him under the floor and then grabbed him
Yeah.
when he said he wasn't ready.
It was so good.
Oh, and I
Yeah.
was so sad when they're all outside the window listening in,
Yeah,
and
it
they
was so
all want him to
devastating.
be ready,
yeah,
but
and
he
it's
isn't.
so embarrassing. God, I loved it. Honestly, I'm so pleased that we went to see it. I really loved it.
How funny even that moment when they're in the roommate's apartment and they're all 6 of them are up in the corner moving left and
Yeah,
right.
so
trying to
good.
avoid his
And
gaze.
I kind of I love that they all went back to their own dimensions, and I love how it ended. But I thought, I want to see more of them all teaming up together. Like, I'd watch that a million times over, those 6, than
Well, they
watching
left it
another
open.
Avengers movie.
They left it open for a sequel,
Oh,
which
I mean-
I would love to watch.
I'm sure if it's financially successful, I've no doubt it will get a sequel. I guess we'll have to see how the box office does.
There's actually a really interesting Donald Glover connection to all this. So do you know the background of any of this?
I recall you and Scroobius Pip telling me that at one point he was going to be
Oh, because
the new Spider-Man.
So on our Spider-Man Homecoming review, which we had Scroobius Pip on for, that came up. So in 2011,
Actually, I enjoyed that one as well, but it was like,
that was good. I mean, they're very
whatever.
different.
Yeah.
So in Community, which he starred in, there was like a famous bit where Troy came out in Spider-Man pajamas, and then the fans started this petition for him to be the next Spider-Man, and to be, because this is before they'd cast Andrew Garfield, and so he was actually in the mix to be the first Black Spider-Man, and then shortly after that campaign happened, Brian Michael Bendis, who's a very famous comic book writer, created Miles Morales, and it came out and said that it was inspired by Donald Glover.
Right, okay.
So Miles Morales is inspired by Donald Glover. Then in Spider-Man Homecoming, Donald Glover played Miles Morales' uncle.
Yeah.
in a brief cameo.
You're losing me.
And his father in this is voiced by Brian Tyree Henry, who is Paperboy from Atlanta, and Donald Glover is one of Donald Glover's best friends.
Right, okay, you're really
from
losing
a show
me now.
Atlanta. And he was in Widows. He was the
Oh yeah, I liked him in
Yeah.
Widows.
Anyway, I'm sorry, I thought that was
You
interesting.
just love Donald Glover, that's all you
I
wanted to
do
talk
love
about.
Donald Glover. And
I don't think he would have been a very good Spider-Man, actually. I like him, but I just don't think he has the
he's
endearing
a little,
charm.
Well, he's too old for it now.
Well, he's too old, but I don't think he would have ever had the sweetness that I really like. Like the new Spider-Man, the young one in the new Marvel movies.
but
he's
hang on.
really young and charming. And
Yeah, but you've never watched Community, and that's basically what Troy is in Community.
Okay, right,
He's got
fair
that
enough.
lovely, sweet naivety.
Yeah, I'm probably more thinking Atlanta. But we digress. We need to wrap this up. Because as good as Oscar's being in his buggy, he's going to lose interest very
Okay,
quickly.
one final thing I'd like to say. This is a good year for Spider-Man, because if anyone hasn't played the Spider-Man PS4 game, it is outstanding and one of the best games I've ever played. And I thought that was one of the best stories, Spider-Man stories, that I'd ever experienced until this came along, and is even better again. So, like, what a year for Spider-Man. And also, this is not really a spoiler for the game, but if you're very, very averse to minor spoilers, stop listening here. But Miles Morales features heavily in that game as well. But the depiction of him here was just 10 times better.
He's just like a real human being in this movie, and a lot of it was because it's not a solo movie, it's an ensemble, and he was learning a lot from the other characters as well, and they were learning from him, and it just really fleshed him out so much. So yeah, I loved it, totally loved it.
Laura, let's wrap it up
And
there.
we need to wrap it up. Thank you for listening. As we said, we're wrapping up the year, and we're putting together our list for best films of the year, so tune in soon to hear that. We also did a bonus episode last year, which ended up getting a lot of downloads, so we're going to do it again, which is best TV of the year. And if you haven't already done so, we would love if you could subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That would be very kind. And follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook.
And let us know what you thought of this movie. We want to hear. We love talking to you guys. So you can email us, thecinemile@gmail.com, or on all of our socials @thecinemile.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Needless to say, I keep on check. She was in back, never learn less. Calling it quits now, baby, I'm a wreck. And please bring me a wreck. Ooh, certain things you just can't refuse.
Miles.
She wanna drive me.
Miles.
Yeah.
Are you finished packing for school?
Yeah. You'll be left in the dust. I ain't my last shirt.